What's happening, people? Welcome back to the show. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you as part of the upper tier. If you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video, we'd really appreciate it. We have a preview. Spurs versus Liverpool, Saturday 5:30 at the new White Hart Lane. Fabulous stadium. A stadium worthy of better football and kind of more success, I would say. A lot of pressure on Thomas Frank at the moment. A lot of calls and question about his job and whether he should be sacked and all this kind of thing. He has dealt with a lot of injuries and a lot of inconsistencies as well, and it's very like the way Spurs are going at the moment. If you look at the home record to the away record, very unlike Thomas Frank, isn't it? Very un-Thomas Frank, you would say, looking at his time at Brentford. So plenty of challenges there for them to face. For us, it's been a much more calming week compared to last week, where we had the whole Mo Salah euphoria and everything else, and Slot's job on the line, Salah leaving, Salah staying, and all this kind of thing, and the player revolt and all this kind of stuff. But this week seems a little bit calmer now. We do have a couple of injuries that we're carrying. Talk that Dominic Szoboszlai is back in training, which is really good. He's pivotal for us, going to be so important. Can't be losing that dynamo in the midfield. Sure we can't. So important. But an interesting one here. Spurs at the moment sitting on 10 home losses in a calendar year, equaling their record, I think, from 2004 and 1993, I think. But a loss tomorrow to Liverpool would push them over to that new record, which starts in 2025. So what do we think about the game here? What's the matchups? What does it look like? I think the main concerns for me when it comes to Spurs, I think they have a lot of talent up front. But I think what's happened with Thomas Frank is he's just struggled to find the blend that he wants to use in terms of what he has available to him and stuff like that. And this can sometimes happen with managers who make a step up to a bigger club and they have more resources available to them. You think of Thomas Frank at Brentford. You could nearly pick Thomas Frank's 11 week in, week out at Brentford. But then you step up into a big club where you have a squad, where you have maybe at least 15, 16, 70 players that you can comfortably rotate around. And then it really shows what you're like as a coach and what you're like as a manager. And that's where sometimes you can get found out and you either sink or swim. And I think that's kind of what's happened at Spurs. Now, we know Thomas Frank is a very good coach. I mean, he showed how good a coach he was at Brentford. But then when you step up to the next level, and Spurs want a challenge for top 4 and they want a challenge for silverware and all that kind of stuff, it's a different kind of energy. It's a different kind of microscopic look at things. You're under the analysis all the time. It's a real difficult one, and certainly it has faced its challenges, and there's been lots of calls, lots of Spurs fans who have checked out already on Thomas Frank and they want him gone. So let us know your thoughts in the comments on that. If you're a Spurs fan, you listen to the channel. Big game tomorrow against Liverpool. Always a big game when Liverpool's in town, no matter who they're playing. How are you feeling right now about Thomas Frank? Is there energy there to give him a bit more time? Is there energy there to get him to try and find what he needs to find? Does he need more support, obviously, in the January window to fix up a few other areas? And, obviously myself and Darren spoke last night about the boy Vicario and Nets, who at times has looked really good, but at times he's looked absolute bozo. So that would obviously be a key area, I would imagine. Obviously we're having Romero and Van de Ven there. Very good centre-back pairing. Need to stay fit, obviously. Poirot obviously on one side, the doggy on the other side, Jed Spence hanging in around it and stuff like that. 3 boys that like to kind of get forward, and sometimes we've seen in the past with Spurs, they've sort of forgotten what their job is in terms of defending. Especially with the boy Poirot, he's very offensive going forward and stuff like that. But in terms of defending, he can just be a bit of a hothead and kind of, because of his lack of understanding of position, sometimes does absolute crazy bozo tackles and gives up cards and free kicks and all that kind of stuff. So that's where they're kind of exposed in their midfield as well. Bentancur has come back, but he really hasn't looked anything like the Bentancur before he went out. He's come back and looks very, very ordinary. And then you got a lot of guys being swapped in and out of there at the moment. Basuma's had his problems on and off the pitch, so hasn't really featured. Looks like he'll probably end up moving away. Bergvall has come in, he's done okay. Archie Gray has been swapped in and out into different positions all over the place, and at times has looked okay and at times has looked very ordinary. So it's an interesting conundrum there at Spurs at the moment. But when you lack the confidence of a goalkeeper and you lack the confidence of a midfielder or a midfield, you've got serious problems to try and fix up, especially in the Premier League, because you will be exposed. Also losing, obviously, Solanke was a big loss to them, and Maddison as well. These are big players, and Kulusevski. These are big players that they can ill afford to lose. Brendan Johnson has really failed to hit the straps that he hit at Nottingham Forest. We know what the boy Richarlison is. On occasion he'll pop up and he'll get a goal, but he's more of a shithouse than a striker. Kudus has come in. He's done okay, but again a little bit hot-headed. So they don't have a lot of stability, if you like, in terms of trying to figure out the front line, in terms of trying to get a real solid midfield in there that can battle in games, that doesn't leave them too exposed. A keeper that more often than not will probably cough up a mistake. Two very good centre backs. Romero obviously can be at times can be a bit of a hothead and stuff like that, which can cost them, but still a very, very good defender. And then you've got those fullbacks there that just seem to so progressive in going forward, but just negating the fact that they need to defend, and that's really where we can take advantage. I think in the midfield, I think we should be strong enough to win the battle in there. But we need to be careful, because Thomas Frank, plenty of times Thomas Frank did a real good coaching job on us when he was at Brentford and figured out what he needed to do. Now, this is a kind of a different style Liverpool than what was back then and stuff like that. So for us, I think it'll be fairly evident what way we go with it. Salah obviously gone off to the AFCON now, so that cloud of craziness has gone away, at least for 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever Egypt are going to do in the AFCON and stuff like that. So you would like to think that this week they've had a good week of training and that it would have been a little bit more harmonious, let's say. So it might have been easier for Slot to get some of his ideas across in terms of coaching and stuff like that, and how he wants to play against Spurs and how he wants to set up. So we shall see. Sometimes when they get too much time and we don't have quick turnaround on games, you get too much time to think about different things, and that can often be a problem as well. So we'll see, has the week of recovery and that intensity coming out of last week, the pressure on that game last week. Would Mo Salah play? Would he be in the squad? Would he be benched off? All the build up to it and all the press that had to be dealt with and stuff like that and all. This week seems to have been much more calmer. Now, there was a few comments obviously in the manager's presser and stuff that would lead you to believe that there's still plenty to be resolved there, and you get the idea that maybe Salah's going to become more of a squad player, more of a substitute and all that, and that's not going to sit well with him. And my feeling would be, if that's the case, then it might solidify the idea that maybe he's played his last game, and maybe after the AFCON he's going to seek pastures new. But at least we've kind of smoothed it somewhat, that it leaves the platform there for the lad to leave the right way. He's a legend of the club, and if he does decide to leave, he can go off, and it's way smoother than the uproar of last week. And it was interesting to see after the Brighton game as well, when he went through that press area and they were asking him for comment, and he went, 2 weeks on the trot, no thanks. You know what I mean? So he obviously knew, he'd obviously been brought in and obviously got his wings clipped in terms of what was said and stuff like that. And also, you know my stance on it, you've seen all the different videos I did. So what are we thinking in this game? Possibly, I think Liverpool will win, and I think it would be a big win as well, to heap more pressure on Thomas Frank. But it would be a huge 3 points for us in terms of how the table shapes up and the way it's structured at the moment. It would also continue our run of showing a bit more form and stuff like that, which is what we would need to see. But yeah, it would be a huge 3 points. I think probably 2-1. I think it will be a tight game. But again, I think it's really, really important not to cough up goals early. Some of this stuff that we've been doing recently now, where we haven't been coughing up goals that early, and we've been playing with a structure where we hang on to the ball. We've been moving the ball around with a bit more control. I'd like to see maybe a bit more purpose on the ball. I don't think it's a good idea tomorrow to be playing in from the wings and just tossing balls into the box aimlessly, because I think Van de Ven and I think Romero just eat that up. I think what we have to do is just think about our approach in a different way, maybe cut inside and maybe do different things than that. And I think that's what would be important, and that's what would bear more fruit for us. I think if we're just going to aimlessly throw balls into the box, I think Spurs will deal with that all day. I think with the two fullbacks that they have as well, it's not that easy to kind of skin them and put balls into the box as well. They're not that easy to open when they are back in position. But I mean, we've seen the job. You know, we've seen the job Forrest did on them and stuff like that and all. Like this is a Spurs side at the moment that lacks confidence, that probably lacks a bit of ability, and structurally around the park is a little bit disjointed, I would say. Now, on the flip side, we've been disjointed and we've been a bit fragmented around the park as well, which will make it very, very interesting. So, but I think it could be a big win for us tomorrow, in terms of the 3 points and in terms of what it can do to the table. And I think it would be very important to pick up the win tomorrow, and just show that we've a bit about us in terms of getting back into this top 4, top 5 race, whatever you want to call it, you know. And it will put pressure on the teams around us as well. So yeah, really, really important. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. What's your prediction for tomorrow? What are you going with the lineup? Who are we going at the front? Ekitike and probably Isaac in the 2, and then, you know, you'll have Gravenberch, Jones and McAllister in the midfield. And then the back line kind of picks itself, doesn't it, at this stage? Frimpong as well, I think, is back in training as well. So but it'll be interesting to see who he goes with, and it'll be interesting to see what the structure looks like without Salah in the squad or in the starting lineup. And we've seen, and no disrespect to Mo Salah because we know how good he is and he's a legend and all, but we've seen with him not being in the team, we've just looked, while we've looked a little bit blunt up front at times, we've certainly looked a little bit better in the way we've controlled the game and held on to the ball and, you know, had real possession and less anxiety and that kind of thing. So Brighton was a big game last week. We came through that test. Can we come through Spurs now? We now going to London for us isn't always that happy hunting ground, but a fabulous stadium, worthy of a 5:30 kick-off. Underneath the lights it'll be dark, and should be a great game. Really looking forward to it. Don't forget, join us. Going to do a watch along for it. So join us for the watch along as well. Spurs versus Liverpool. We'll be live just before 5:30. We'll bring you through all the team news and all the latest news in relation to the game, and of course we'll give you the reaction throughout the game and live coverage. Until then, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button. It is the Shankly Sessions, part of the Upper Tier podcast on YouTube. We go live on Facebook as well, and we're dropping shorts every single day at the moment. The wrestling content is ratcheted right up, and We did a great show last night, myself and Darren, where we spoke about the AFCON. Make sure you check that out as well. And we had a deep show last night. We had a deep show last night. We went deep in terms of a lot of different issues and stuff like that. And you know, we spoke about it this time of year, and you know, taking care of one another and how dangerous it can be, and you know, making sure everyone's okay and all. It's always a tough time of year, and there's always that joy and that happiness, especially if you're a family man like myself and like Darren and you've kids. There's always that joy and that happiness, but in their background there's always those little sprinklings of sadness and stuff like that that tend to happen at this time of year. So check in on people and make sure people are okay. You know, Christmas is not a joyous and happy time for everyone. For some people it's a really, really dark and tough time. So let's not assume everyone's the same, folks. Talk to you again real soon. Cheers.